Good evening. Today's daf is daf mem amid aleph and beis. We are going to begin in daf mem by the two dots. The line starts with Yaakov Tanan Rabbanon. Tanan Rabbanon, we learned in a brisa. The brisa says, "Apitropos mishalmin min ha'aliyah." Yesterday we spoke about if there's a shur, an ox that belongs to a cher sheitav v'katan, and this cher sheitav v'katan can't guard its ox, so the beis din now point in apitropos. So the halacha is, if this apitropos, under his jurisdiction, the animal damages, so the halacha is, if the animal is a mu'et, so mishamin min ha'aliyah. So the nizik could demand payment from the best, the choicest part of the nechasim of the cher sheitav v'katan. As we explained many times throughout the Masechta, that when it comes to a tam, the first three times, so the mazik has to pay the nizik a chatzi nezik, and this chatzi nezik comes from the gufa of the worth of the mazik. So if let's say the mazik damaged the nizik, let's say $100 worth, and now the mazik for whatever reason cannot pay him that chatzi nezik $50, so you sell the shade, and half of that, or half of the value of that share, pays back the nizik. However, when it comes to a mu'ed, that has to be at least, number one, it's a nezik shalim, and number two, it's mishalmin min aliyah. So that's what the brisa says. That apitropos mishalmin min aliyah, that an apitropos has to pay from the best of the nechasim of the cher sheitav v'katan. However, ve'ein mishalmin kofer, but it does not pay kofer. So the apitropos is not mechuyev to actually pay kofer. Doesn't have to pay this ransom. Now, but then the halacha is, if a sher mu'ed kills a person, so the Baal HaSher, the owner of the shir, has to pay a kofer to the inheritors of the shir. So now the Gemara asks, so what comes out? The Gemara says the reason why the apitropos pays a kofer, or the reason why the apitropos does not pay a kofer, is because a kofer comes to be mechaper, to atone for the Baal HaSher, and since ketanim do not need to have kapara, because they're not b'nei kapara, and since the apitropos is in place of the ketanim, so therefore the apitropos does not need to pay kofer, because he's paying kofer for the ketanim, and ketanim are not b'nei kapara. So the Gemara asks, Man Tana Kufra, who is the Tana who taught that the purpose of a kufra is kapara, is atonement? As we learned, there's a machlekes of what kofer is for. Either it's a kapara or it's a mamena. So the question is, who is the Tana who taught that the purpose of the kapara, of the ransom, is for atonement for the owner of the ox? Now, b'yasmi la b'nei kaparninu, and therefore a cotton's apitropos is pater because orphans are not subject to the obligation of kapara. Why? Because they're not responsible. So the question is, our Gemara says that apitropos mishalmin min aliyah, but vein mishalmin kofer. Why? Because kofer is kapara, and therefore v'yasem la b'nei kaparninu. So who holds this shita? So Rav Chisda says, Rabbi Shmuel b'nei shel Rabbi Yechon ben Bereika. This is the opinion of Rabbi Shmuel, the son of Rabbi Yechon ben Bereika. Tanya, we learned in a brisa, the pasuk says, "V'nosan pidim nafshi." The pasuk says, in regards to somebody who's chayiv kofer, the pasuk says, "V'nosan pidim benafshi," that he has to give a pidyon for his neshama. The pasuk says that if a shir damages or kills another person, in kofer yushas olav v'nosan, which means that the Baal HaSher, which killed the owner, has to give a pidyon nafshi, which means kofer kechol asher yushas olav. That's what the Torah says. Now, so Rabbi Yechon ben Bereika says that when the pasuk says v'nosan pidyon nafshi, what does that mean? Demei nizak. He has to give the value. He's giving a redemption. So what does it mean? He's giving a redemption. He gives the value of the person who died, the injured party. He says no. Demei mazik. He holds that it's that you're giving the value of the one liable for the damage. Now, what do you see from this machlekes? You have machlekes between the Tana Kamah and Rabbi ben Breka on Vanas and Pidyon Nafshe. Do you give the main nizik or the main mazik? So the Gemara says, "My la b'okamifli." What are they arguing? The Rabban and the Sabri, the Tana Kamah hold kufra memenu. They hold that when the Torah says you have to give koiver, you have to give a ransom, this is a monetary restitution for damage caused, and therefore the yarshim of the victim have to be paid the value of the victim. Why? Because koifer is memoinei, and the way that the Torah looks, according to the Tana Kamah, the way the Torah looks at koifer means that the Shur killed this person, so now the Yorshim are entitled that the Baal Asher owes mumming to Yorshim, because Kaifer is Mameni. And therefore, according to Tana Kamah, they have to pay the Dmei Nizik. But however, Rabbi Shmuel, the son of Rabbi Kamah holds Kufra Kapara. He holds that Kaifer, when the Torah says you have to pay a Kaifer, it is for atonement. So accordingly, the amount of the Kaifer, so according to the one who holds that it's the main nizak, will hold that it's because it's a mameinik. So you have to pay the value of the damage that you did. So if God forbid the shit killed somebody, so you have to now assess what this person would be worth in the marketplace sold as an hevet. Ma'ashenkin, according to Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Breka will hold that since koifer is a kapara, so that's why the chayda is made mazik. So when our price is said that he doesn't pay koifer, why? Because he holds that koifer is a kapara, that will be Rabbi Breka, who holds that you pay the main mazik. I'm sorry. So when a papa says, like, that's not pshat. Tekula ama kufra kapariu. I can tell you that everyone holds that koifer is an atonement. And this is what they're arguing. The Chachamim hold that how do you pay the koifer, how do you assess the koifer is with the damage done to the nizik. And Rabbi Shmuel ben Breka he holds with the mazik sheminin. We evaluate it according to the value of the one chayiv for the damage. In other words, everyone agrees that koifer is a kapara. The question is, how do you assess the koifer? Is the mazik or the nizik? Okay, so now the Gemara asks, my time of the Rabbanon, what is the reason the Chacham hold that we go if koifer is a kapara? So why would the Chacham hold that you look at the value of the nizik? Chayra, it's the mazik. So look at what the mazik damaged. So the Gemara says, "Nemra shisa lamatav and nemra shisa lamayla." I have a gzeda shava. It says in koifer yushas olav, and it says also when a person who injures a pregnant woman and causes this woman to miscarry, the Torah also uses the lashon of yushas. So, malahalim b'diniz, just like in the case of the woman who has this miscarriage, we evaluate according to the injured party. In other words, we see, we see the lady, how she is with the fetus and without the fetus, how much she's worth. So, afkan, so to here, the koifer, when the Torah speaks about the koifer, about a shur damaging or killing a person, is b'dinizik. He says it's b'dinizik because I have a gzir shava of shisa. Now, Rabbi Shmuel ben Breka summer holds v'nasam pidyon nafshik. See, the Torah says clearly, and he shall give for the redemption of his life, which is mashma that he has to give a koifer for himself. What does that mean? A koifer that the mazik has to give his l'chayir's owner, his monetary value. Abanon and the Chacham are going to say, you're right. Pidyon nafshik. You're right. Yes, the Torah does say for the redemption of his life. Miu kishaminan. However, when we evaluate the amount that he's chayiv to pay, is b'dinizik shaminan, we're going to evaluate according to the value of the injured party. Rava was praising Rav Acha bar Yaakov to Rav Nachman. And he said, the Odom Gadol, Rava told Rav Nachman that this man, Rav Acha bar Yaakov, is a very great man. So Amalei, Rav Nachman said to him, when he happens to come to you, when Acha bar Yaakov comes to you, heavy enu liyadi, bring him to visit me. Come, tell him to come visit me. So, what happened? Ki also the gabe when Rav Nachman, Rav Acha bar Yaakov came to Rava, Amalei. So Rav Nachman, when Rav Acha bar Yaakov came to visit Rava. Thank you very much. Came to Rava. So what happened was he also Rabbi, when Reb Acha Bar Yaakov came to Rava, so Amar Le, Reb Nachman said to him, Boi minam milsa. Ask me a shaila. I heard you're a great man, so ask me a shaila in learning. So Boi minei, so Reb Acha Bar Yaakov asked him, Sher shel shnei shutafin, ketzim mishalin kefer. When you have an ox that belongs to two partners, so how do you pay kefer? If the ox goes and kills somebody and it belongs to shutfin, how do they pay kefer? And he asked, Mishalin high kefer v'high kefer. If this partner pays kefer, and this partner now pays kefer, the Torah says that only one kefer shall be paid, but not two ransoms. Now, high chatzi kefer v'high chatzi kefer. Maybe you say that, okay, each partner has to pay half a kefer. But that's also incorrect. Why? Because kefer shalom chatzi kefer. The Torah says that it has to be a full ransom, but not half a ransom. That was the question that he asked Reb Nachman. While Reb Nachman was sitting and thinking about this very, very deep shaila, Reb Acha Bar Yaakov asked him another question. He says, Tanan, the Mishnah says, Chayav Arochin, that the Beis Din, when a person, let's say, promises his value to the Beis HaMikdash and he doesn't pay it right away, so the halacha is, Memashkin and Oiseh. We take a collateral, we repossess property from this person, until he pays the valuation, because he's delaying the payment. So what does the people in the Beis HaMikdash do? They hold a mashkin until he's going to go ahead and pay his value. That's the din. If somebody promises his value to the Beis HaMikdash, mashkin noiseh, we take a mashkin. However, chatas v'asham is mashkin noiseh. But if a person is chayiv a korban or chatas or asham, then the Torah does not go and take, the halacha is you don't take a mashkin. Why? Because we rely upon them that they will bring the korban on their own initiative, because we assume that they want a kapara for their avera. So why would they delay that? Now, they don't want to hold that kapara. So the halacha is chayav kufrin mai. So you asked another shayla. Somebody's chayav a kaifer. So what's the din? Somebody's chayav a kaifer now and he doesn't pay. Does the Beis HaMikdash take a mashkin or not? Do we look at it like? So he says like this. He explains. Even the kapara, since kaifer api halach is a kapara, so kechatas v'oshim dami. So I'll look at it like a korban chatas and osham that you do not have to pay, that you don't have to take a mashkin. So machmer chomer ilavi v'lo by mashkuni, which means that a person treats it seriously because he wants to achieve atonement, and therefore the Beis Din does not need to take away property from him. Or perhaps it should be reasoned that since he's required to give the kaifer to another person, he considers it like a financial liability and does not consider an obligation towards Hashem. And he's not going to treat it seriously. And therefore the Beis Din might need to take a mashkin from him because he might not pay it. Inami, or even the hulay chata, since he himself did not sin, it's just that the ox sinned. The ox was the one that damaged. So he does not treat this matter seriously enough. And he needs to repossess the property. So those are the two questions. He asked Rav Nachman. Number one, he asked, Shutvin tzrichim kapara or not? Or I should say, so the shutfin, how do they pay the kaifer? And number two, he asked him is that if he asked him about chayav orachin, the halach is b'mashkin neisei, chayav chatas is not. What will be the din by kaifer? Do we look at it as a korban chatas or asham, and therefore, just like there, we don't take a mashkin here, also we don't take a mashkin because he takes it seriously, or we say no. We say that he doesn't look at it as strict, either because he looks at it like money, or like his friend's money, or he says, I didn't really sin, it was my animal that sinned, so I don't really need to have a kapara. Okay, so what happened was he's very sharp, and Rav Nachman got upset at him. He says, Shifkin, he said, leave me alone. I'm still stuck in your first shaila. I don't have an answer. So don't ask me another question. Okay, Tana Abana, we learned in a brayso Now, even though when a person borrows an ox from another, a shayl is chayiv for damages, the question is like this. Shalu b'cheskas tam, if he borrowed, Reuben now borrowed from Shimon with the chazaka, with the presumption that it was a shir tam. And what happened? V'nim samut, it comes out that it was found that it really was a shir, which is a mut. So the din is like this. Ba'ol misham l'chatzi nezek. The owners pay a half of the chatzi nezek. And v'shayl misham chatzi nezek. And the shayl, the borrower has to pay half the damage. Now, who are the base shayl? If, let's say, it became a mud in the house of the borrower, and exir l'bayim, so let's say while the borrower took the ox, it gored 3 times, and now it became a mud. So what happened? Exir l'bayim. He then returned it to the owner, and then it gored again. So the halacha is bayim mishalim and chatzi nezek. The owner has to pay chatzi nezek because the tam pays chatzi nezek. And v'shayl pater meklum, the borrower is exempt from paying any compensation. Why? Since the ox is no longer in his rishus. So that's the din. If he borrowed b'cheskas tam and he found that it was a mu'id, so then they split it half-half. If the owner, the borrower, took it and made it a mu'id and then gave it back to the bailim and then it gored, so the bailim has to pay half a nezik, and the shayl is pater meklum. Omar Mar, within the Rabbi, Shalom b'cheskas tam v'nimtzkum mu'id, bailim sham chatzi nezek. V'shayl chatzi nezek, v'shayl chatzi nezek. Freddy, what about mine? Why does the shayl have to pay a chatzi nezek? Le'im malei, teida shili, ayla shili. The borrower could tell the owner, I borrowed an ox. I didn't borrow a lion. So I don't accept the fact that I borrowed a tam, or I borrowed an ox, thinking that maximum it's a tam, or automatically it's a tam. Then I found out that no, it's a mu'id. So why should I pay anything? I borrowed an ox, I didn't borrow a lion. So Amarav Rav says, off of my skin, we're dealing with a case where he could buy shuhu nachon. We're dealing with a case where the borrower was aware at the time that he borrowed it that it was goring a ox. So he found out that it was goring a ox. Sorry, he's talking about where the borrower was aware at the time that he borrowed that it was a goring ox, and therefore he's chayav for the damage. So the Gemara says, "V'nei malei," but if that's true, let him say to the owner, "Tam sheili." Yes, I knew that it was a goring ox, but I borrowed a shir tam mu'ud lo sheili. I did not borrow, or did not have intention to borrow a shir mu'ud. I didn't accept this responsibility, so I shouldn't have to pay. Which person has to pay a nezek shalom? So I didn't take that upon me. So the Maharaj says, the reason is because the owner can say to him, safe, eat tam of it. Okay. Ultimately, let's say even if it was a shir tam that you borrowed, palkaniska boy the shlumi, you would at least have to pay half the damage. Hashtanami here also zil shalom palkaniska, so too you will have to at least pay half the damage. So when I ask for name alay, but let him say eat tam. The borrower should say to the owner, if it was a shir tam, have a mishtalim gufay, so then the damage would be paid, as we said in the beginning of the shir, from the gufa, the body of the ox, not from the aliyah. So the more answers is from the amarlay, the borrower can say, because the owner can say to him, safe, at the end of the day, at lav teida boyish shlum the day, the owner can say to him, ultimately, would you not have been required to pay me back the full value of the ox? As a shale, you are obligated to return the ox to me in the same condition that you borrowed it. So even if let's say the compensation was collected from the sale, you would still have to return me the full value of the actual ox. So basically, you're not losing anything. So let him say to him, a tam, if the ox was a tam, have a medina. I would have admitted, if the ox was a tam, so then I would have admitted my chiyuv, petranya, and I would be potter, because the din is that a knas is only when you have testimony from Adam, but meida b'knas is potter. So if it would be a tam, I'd be meida, yes, that a taka gourd, and I'd be potter from the knas. And he says, well, I feel even according to the one who says that half the damage is considered a monetary restitution, not a knas, and therefore his hido would not have rendered himself potter from chiyuv, let the borrower say to him, Tamu, if the ox was a tam, have a ma'arikna le'el agma. I would have smuggled it out to the agam, to the marsh, so that the nizik would not find it in my possession. And then he's not going to be able to collect payment from me, since he can collect only from the proceeds of the sale of the ox, and I'm hiding the ox. So the compensation for damage caused by the mu'id can be collected, as we said, from the owner's property. And the borrower has no way of rendering himself patur from liability. Therefore, it's unclear why the borrower is chayav to pay half the cost of the damage. We're going to say the halacha skin. What are we dealing with? Contain the actim beidina. So in the case where the Beis Din seized the ox first, the tafsir they grabbed it before the borrower had a chance to be moida or let's say to smuggle the ox away. So therefore, the shayl cannot claim that he would have been able to make himself patur because the Beis Din already took away the ox. So the Gemara says, if that's really the case, so why does the owner pay half of the damage? Name Malay, let him say to the borrower, atafsir l'toiri, bida the mandalei matzina l'shtui dina ba'adei. You let my ox be seized by Beis Din, with whom I cannot have any litigation to try to get my to get anything. The Beis Din already, so the Beis Din now took it away. The Beis Din collects full payment, and you're responsible for this situation. Therefore, you have to pay the full amount. So my answer says, the owner, the Gemara answers that the owner is chayav today because the borrower can say to him, if I would have returned it to you, would the Beis Din not have taken it from you? So the Gemara asks weiter, let him say in that case, if you would have returned it to me, have a ma'arikna le'el agma, I would have smuggled it out to the agam, and the Beis Din would not be able to seize it. So Gemara says again, the borrower can say to him, ultimately, would the nizik party not then have received payment from your aliyah, as the halacha in this case of a mu'id, where we know the compensation comes from the aliyah of the property. So the Gemara says, this is very well where there's property to collect from. What about in the case where you don't have the property? What are you going to say? In that case, the borrower has in fact caused them a loss. So the answer is because the reason the shayl is patur, because you can say to the owner, just as I am indebted to you to return your ox to you, I'm also indebted to the nizik to whom you owe compensation. This is a din of Shubud Rabbi Nassan. The time we learn in a brisa, Rabbi Nassan says, famous din. From where do we know that a person, that if one is owed 100 dinars by another, and the other person, the malva is owed 100 dinars by another person. So what do we know? That he could just go directly and give it to him. That's what the Torah says, and he gives it to the one with regard to whom he is chayiv. So in other words, there's a matziv where the person chayiv, the liable party pays a third person to whom the creditor owes money to him. Now, we said, who had bebeis shel v'zir the bailim? We said that if the ox was made a mu'id, bebeis shel, by the borrower, and then he returned it to the bailim, so bailim masham chatzi nezek, so the owner has to pay chatzi nezek, with shel patur m'klum, and the borrower is patur from anything. So the Gemara asks, Seifa reshus mishana, reish reshus eni mishana. The last case of the brisa says, mashma, that a change of custody changes the status of the ox. If it was rendered mu'id while it's in the borrower's possession, and then it was returned to its owner, the owner pays only half the cost of the damage. Why? Because there was a reshus mishana, because there was a change in the reshus. So the reshus in the mishana, in the first case of the brisa, which teaches that the ox retains its status as a mu'id even after it's being borrowed, it's mashma that reshus in the mishana. That custody does not change the status of the ox. So tavri, you have to disassociate it. Who taught the first case did not teach the last case. Rabbi says no. Both cases are talking about that reshus does not change the status. The seifa I know time. Why in the seifa the ox reverts to the status of a tam? The amarle lav kol kiminach to miyate le'letere. Because the owner can say to the borrower, it's not in your power to make my ox a mud. I did not give it to you with intention that because of your pshia, you can now change the status of my share. Therefore, the owner is not chayav to pay the additional compensation that results from the status the ox acquired under the custody of the borrower. The Papa Rabbi says, he says, no. If the first Reisha is talking about that the Rishus is Meshana, the Sefer as well. The Reisha time, what's the reason in the Reisha words? What's the reason in the first case that the ox is considered a mud even in the custody of the borrower? Because wherever it goes, shame the name of its owner is upon it. Since it was rendered a mud under its owner's custody, with whom it remains identified, is not considered to have undergone a change of Rishus, a change of custody. Okay, we had a din, we said that the stadium ox is not chayav to be put to death. Why? Since it's trained to gore. So, can you use the shade which is trained in a stadium? Could you use it could you sacrifice it on the mizbech? So we have machlekes amiroyim. Rav Amar Kosher, Shmuel Amar Pasol. Rav Amar Kosher is onasu. Rav says that this guy is beyond his control, and since it's beyond his control, why can't he should be able to sacrifice it on his mizbech? Shmuel says Pasol Hari Nevda Bayaveda. Why? Because a transgression was committed through it. The Gemara asks Meisvei, I'm going to ask you a question. The Torah says, Mina Behema, you're allowed to bring a korban from a Behema. Why does it say Mina Behema? La'itzis Areva V'Sanirba. To exclude an animal that was engaged in the relations with a man, with a person or animal that was an object of being a nirba. You can't bring that as a korban. Mina Boker, why does it say from the herd? La'itzis Aneva, to exclude an animal that was been worshipped as an Avodah Zarah. Minat Zayin, from the flock, La'itzis Amuktzah, to exclude an animal that was been set aside for Avodah Zarah. Minat Zayin, La'itzis Negeach. It says Minat Zayin, to exclude an animal that gores a person killing him. Rabbi Shimon says this: Im Nemar Reveah, Lama Nemar Negeach. If the Teda disqualified a Reveah, why would it say about Negeach? And Vim Nemar Negeach, Lama Nemar Reveah. Why? Because there's a chumrah pertaining to an animal that engaged in this act of reveah, which does not pertain to one that gores. And you have an animal that gores that does not pertain to an animal that engaged in reveah. The Gemara says, reveah, with regard to an animal that engaged in this act, also by Einis Karatzin, the Torah renders a case where it's a victim of circumstances beyond his control, like the case of a Ratzin, like he willfully did it and disqualified the korban. Negeach, an ox that gored, like also by Einis Karatzin, the Torah does not render a case of an Einis Karatzin. Negeach is Mashalom Kefer. Reveah ain't Mashalom as a Kefer. Lefika Chutzach Lemer, Reveah, Chutzach Lemer Negeach. Now, what comes out from this brisa? K'tanim Mias, what comes out from this brisa? Reveah also by Einis Karatzin. By the case of Reveah, the Torah makes an Einis Karatzin. Negeach, but by gore, also by Einis Karatzin. The Torah does not make an Einis Karatzin. So the Gemara asks, with regards to what halacha is stated, lav the korban, is it not with regard to an animal eligibility to be brought as a korban? So it comes out that the stadium ox, which is considered a onus beyond its control, is fit to be brought as a korban, not like Shmuel says that it's usher. So the Gemara says, like, it's not what the brisa means. Look, it means the death, that the ox is not killed if the victim of circumstances beyond its control. So the Gemara says, it makes sense to say this, the korban, because if you're going to say that it means the korban, again, also by Einis Karatzin, with regard to an animal that gores, the Torah does not render a case where it's a victim of circumstances beyond its control, like the case where it acted willfully. Lav Einis Dideksiv, Lav Ratzin Dideksiv. Neither are circumstances beyond its control written in that context, nor is it willingness written. The issue is not mentioned in the Torah at all. And Allah must be, it's talking about for if the axe the kills. So the Bryce does not really address the machlekes between Rav and Shmuel. Amr Mar within the Bryce, and again, Mishalom Sakefer, and Mishalom Sakefer. The Gemara says, hey Chidami, what's the case? If you say the animal engaged in the vas with a woman and killed her, so Mali the Katla Bekarna, Mali Katla Berevia. Who cares how we kill? The animal deserves to be killed. And you have to pay a kofer. Well, the Rabbi Katla. Rather, they were involved in this act, but he did not kill her. So the reason why he doesn't pay a kaifer is because he didn't kill the animal didn't kill the person. So Rabbi says, really the animal engaged in this relations, but he did not kill her. So really the owner is not chayav kaifer. However, what happened was the asher the beidin of a katlu. When as the woman was brought to the Beis Din, they executed her for having this isser. The Gemara says, so now the tema you would think that mishum the katli domi, that the ox would be considered like one that killed her, as that's why she got executed, and therefore the owner should be chayav to pay a kaifer. Mashmalan, therefore we don't say that. Rava says, rather it's a case, the case where the animal had this sin and killed her in the process. Or the kachul of mali kata bekanayim, mali kata berivio. And you're asking, what difference does it make if she was killed with the horns or killed with rivas? The answer is that keren kavanas lazik. The case of keren, as we know, is it has the intention to cause injury. And hai kavanas lanas atzmei. In the case of the killing through rivas, its intention is to achieve its own pleasure. It didn't have intention to go kill the person. The Gemara says, what are they arguing? They disagree with regard to the case where the ox trampled a child with its foot, killing it, in the courtyard of the nizik. According to Abaye pays okay, but the Rav Mishalom Kefer. Tanya Gabi said that Rav shade ha eat stonin in a chayimisa kosher the Gab Mizbeach. Why? Because it's as though it was compelled to behave in this manner, and therefore it's not chayimisa, and you could bring a carbon. Have a wonderful